All right, tonight, intense lobbying is underway as over 28 men and women battle for the 9 slots to represent Kenya in the East African Legislative Assembly. The slots now threatening to drive wedges within both the Azimio and Kenya Kwanza factions as big names get dropped with interest taking center stage. Of course, this even coming as the civil society joins the fray in opposing the plan to scrap off presidential term limits, and they are calling upon the president to pronounce himself on the matter. We have this and much more coming your way, but here are stories that made it to the top 3 tonight. Nurdin Haji applies to withdraw the 7.3 billion shilling corruption charges against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua.
Does not meet the evidential threshold required to amount a successful prosecution of this case.
The Anti-Corruption Court will Thursday morning rule whether to drop the case. Plus, Kenyans will from January next year travel to South Africa visa-free using ordinary passports for up to 90 days annually.
Kenyans holding ordinary passports will be allowed to enter South Africa on a visa-free regime for up to 90 days per calendar year.
As President Ruto and his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa seek to strengthen ties between the two nations. Plus, big names miss out in the East African Legislative Assembly nomination slots.
In terms of nomination and even in terms of gender balance, we have endeavored to ensure that there is also regional balance of our nominees.
As lobbying to represent Kenya in the regional parliament kicks off. That's right, TV47 News Tonight begins right now. Very good evening to you and welcome aboard. My name is Kenneth Kazungu. Mini Mbesa will be handling the sign language interpretation. Now, Kenya Airways is now expected to return to its normal operations from Saturday, November 12th. The pilots returned to work on Wednesday after a court ordered them to end their 4 days long strike, which had led to hundreds of flight cancellations and stranded thousands of passengers. And as our reporter Mike Aguongo now tells us, over 5,000 of the 12,000 affected passengers have been uplifted.
The pilot strike, which began on Saturday, exacerbated the woes facing the troubled national carrier, which has vowed to do everything possible to return to normalcy by Saturday, November 12, 2022. In a statement to its passengers Wednesday, KQ said to meet the needs of their customers, normal operations will officially resume on Saturday. Part of the statement read, and I quote, "Dear customer, we look forward to welcoming you back on board with normal flight operations resuming by the 12th of November 2022. Please visit our official website for more information regarding your flight." End of quote. At the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, some passengers said they were offered alternative flights in an effort to reduce the number of 12,000 stranded passengers.
Yeah, today I think it's very good. If you look at the tent, it's very calm. There are not so many people, so I think everyone is being sorted out. People are going to travel as per plan, so I think it's really good news. It's really good news.
Yes, tulikuwa najua kuna mgomo, lakini nilikuja tu kuthibitisha niko na fly leo. Nikaambiwa sasa kukuja leo naambiwa tumeahirisha flight yako ni kesho.
It really set me back because I had to connect with another flight from Entebbe via Dubai, so I have missed that flight as well.
Most annoying aspect is that since yesterday I've been trying to get in touch with the airline because I was told that there was a possibility of flight reschedules. No one was responding. I got in this morning, went through until I got to the counter to check in, only to be told that the flights have been cancelled.
By Wednesday evening, KQ had scheduled and operated 48 flights out of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA. By November 10th, 2022, the scheduled departures were 43 flights, a translation of 50% of the normal operations. By Friday, November 11th, KQ says it shall operate 70% of its network and expect to resume full operations by Saturday, November 12th. Over 5,000 of the 12,000 disrupted passengers have been uplifted. However, the national carrier still has about 200 guests accommodated in hotels across Nairobi, who shall be rebooked in the next 2 days. KQ has also uplifted approximately 50 tons of cargo.
To KQ, I think they put so many people in big hotels over a period of 3 or 4 days. Like when I was in Johannesburg, it's just a group of I don't know how many people were all put together in a hotel. Which was really unprecedented. So I think that is a loss on their part, because finally they were to book us back to the flights coming to Kenya. So I think they spent a lot of money.
The strike caused passengers delays and the export of agricultural products in the country. Striking KQ pilots were ordered to return to work while negotiations between their union and Kenya Airways management continues. KQ pilots have been on strike since Saturday, November 5th, which ended Tuesday after Labour Court judge in Nairobi, Ann Moore, ordered them to end the strike. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, in human rights organizations are calling on Fafi Member of Parliament Salah Yakub to withdraw his sentiments he made, claiming that a section of United Democratic Alliance members of Parliament wanted the scrapping of presidential term limits. This story was produced by Andrew Juma.
A day after Fafi Member of Parliament Yakub Salah disclosed a move by a section of UDA members of Parliament to introduce a bill in Parliament seeking to extend President Ruto's tenure, a number of Kenyans have condemned the talk.
Kwa sababu itakuwa ni kughadhabisha, ina maana wengine watafungiwa, kuna watu ambao watafungiwa hawataendelea kufanya na kupiga kura tena. Ina maana kuna watu ambao, kuna viongozi wengi ambao wananuia kugombea, lakini hawataenda watakuwa wamefungiwa kwa sababu
term limits for president should be two terms, and that's what we advocate as the residents of Kisii. We want term limits not to extend, but if we elected Ruto, he should deliver services to the people of Kenya.
Term limit wacha ikue miaka 10 venye ilikuwa, otherwise mimi ningekuwa kwa wale ambao walitengeneza sheria ya 2010, term limit ingekuwa miaka 8.
On Wednesday, human rights defenders led by the Haki Africa Group, Mathare Social Justice Center, Kituo cha Haki Group, Institute for Land Governance and Human Rights, among others, joined hands to condemn the move.
Resist mutilating the Constitution, resist! Resist! Resist mutilating the Constitution, resist! Resist! We also believe that the democratic practice across the world is for 2 terms for presidents, and this is the acceptable norm and rule of good governance, and this is our culture.
We shall not allow politicians who are sycophants to wage a war among Kenyans when the constitution is very clear on what is needed to be done.
Dhuluma ikija. According to them, the country risks being divided in two if the sentiments by the Fafi MP are not properly dealt with, which could increase tension in the country.
President Ruto should assure Kenyans that his government will work within the Constitution of Kenya and will not directly or indirectly dilute the democratic principles guaranteed within.
Tutaendelea kusukuma, tutaendelea kuongea mpaka tuhakikishe haki imepatikana.
The group has asked the MP to come out in public and apologize to Kenyans, pointing out that President Ruto should also come out clearly and state his position on the matter.
Implement Katiba, implement! Implement! Implement Katiba, implement! Implement!
The opposition members of Parliament, led by the minority leader Opiyo Wandayi, Suna East MP Junet Mohammed, were among the first to condemn the proposal, asking UDA party to focus on delivering on its promises to Kenyans instead of focusing on office term limits.
That any attempt to create a life presidency in this country, like the one we see obtaining in Uganda, shall be resisted vigorously.
Viva comrades, viva! Viva! Viva Kenyans, viva! Viva!
Now tonight, the Anti-Corruption Court is expected to rule on Thursday on whether or not to dismiss graft allegations facing Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The new development coming after the Director of Public Prosecutions, that is Nuruddin Haji, filed an application at the court today seeking to dismiss charges in the 7.4 billion Kenya shillings case for the lack of sufficient evidence. TV47's Apollo Kamau reports on a day the Director of Criminal Investigations was put on the spot.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, alongside 9 other persons, will be following closely a crucial ruling at the Anti-Corruption Court on Thursday morning, when the court delivers a crucial verdict that could drop graft charges leveled against him, amounting to 7.4 billion shillings. Charges he maintains were politically instigated due to his alliance with the then Deputy President William Ruto under President Uhuru Kenyatta. Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji, through his legal team, on Wednesday made an application before trial magistrate Victor Wakumile to withdraw the case due to lack of sufficient evidence, while accusing the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI under George Kinoti of frustrating Haji with lack of evidence for a period of 1 year, despite having written numerous letters.
The DPP independently reviewed the matter and concluded that the evidence as it is does not meet the evidential threshold, required to amount a successful prosecution of this case.
Gachagua and his co-accused defense teams supported DPP's application, pointing out the case was headed for an acquittal, given no prosecution witness had given evidence, and therefore Advocate Kioko Kilukumi told the court the prosecution was saving the court's time. In a surprise turn of events, DCI's lead investigator in Gachagua's case, Obadia Kuria, saw an affidavit saying he was pressured by DCI boss George Kinoti to recommend criminal charges, which were corruption and economic crimes, against Gachagua alongside his co-accused.
This affidavit is drawn by you. It is not drawn by another person. It's not a lawyer drawing it for you. It is you who has drawn it. And you use the words immense pressure from Mr. Kinoti.
It's pressure.
Yes.
You work under pressure. Yes.
No, you use the words immense pressure from Mr. Kinoti.
It's pressure.
Events of the 21st of July 2021 at 3 in the morning, when Gachagua was arrested and taken to the DCI headquarters in Nairobi from Mathira, were revisited, including how he was held in custody over the weekend, despite the unavailability of evidence.
The first accused was arrested on Friday, 23rd July 2021 at 3 a.m. in Mathira, Nyeri County.
The court's charge sheet claims that Gachagua obtained 7.3 billion shillings through 3 bank accounts, money which the prosecution said was proceeds of crime. The case, among others, occurred between 2013 and 2020. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Moving on, and following the ravaging drought that has been witnessed in many parts of the country, a section of Kenyans from Subukia in Nakuru County have started an initiative to distribute food and water to the affected counties, especially in the neighboring Baringo County. Take a look.
For a long time now, over 20 counties in Kenya have been grappling with the ongoing drought that has been occasioned by lack of rain for 4 successive rainy seasons. According to the National Drought Management Authority, over 4.3 million Kenyans are in a dire situation requiring emergency humanitarian assistance. Areas such as Loruk, Baringo North, Mogotio and Tiati in Baringo County have been greatly affected by drought. Jennifer Cherogoni, a resident in Loruk, says children and young people have started moving out of their homes in search of food, which has affected their education too.
Watoto wengine wametoroka kwa manyumba. Mtoto amekimbilia jirani anasema unisaidie kidogo, labda hiyo jirani ni afadhali kidogo. Lakini wengi wamekulwa na njaa sana. Hatuna lunch, hatuna chochote.
Residents are also losing their cattle due to lack of pasture and water, and they are calling on the government and well-wishers to come to their aid.
Takupatia watoto wetu kazi na kuchunga sisi na kutafutia sisi chakula. Sisi nimeumia kwa njaa. Hakuna kitu natoa. Mbuzi mekuba. Ng'ombe mekuba.
However, they now have a reason to smile after residents of Subukia in neighboring Nakuru County started an initiative to distribute food and water to the affected families under the umbrella of Kingori Nguruike Foundation. The foundation is currently collecting donations from other Kenyans, churches, business people, and other well-wishers in order to prevent deaths caused by hunger.
It is not good for Subukia to have surplus, whereas in Baringo they are dying of hunger. So we decided it's good for us to come to Baringo and also feed our neighbors. I would appeal to the regions that they have been blessed with the harvest for them to care about their neighbors. It is a time for a Kenya to share with a Kenyan.
Sylvia Nyongesa, TV 47.
To the corridors of justice now, and Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Gender, that is Aisha Jumwa, now wants her murder case dropped. In another court battle for the Kianjokoma brothers, murder case has been adjourned to February 27th next year. Collins Lusweti with a roundup of those stories produced by Ronnie Reagan.
Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Gender Aisha Jumwa is now calling on the Director of Public Prosecution to drop her murder case pending at the Mombasa law courts. Through her lawyers Dunstan Omari and Omayo Aranga, the former Malindi MP says there is no evidence linking her to the murder, arguing that the close perusal of the ballistic report indicated that the bullet that was used to kill the deceased did not emanate from the CS firearm.
Representing Aisha Jumwa and quite a number of people were charged. After being given the witness statements, we evaluated the witness statements that we have of the complainants, of the accusers, to the Cabinet Secretary and very many others of our clients. With over 30 lawyers, we found out that the evidence that we have does not meet the threshold to take Aisha Jumwa or any other of our clients through the criminal process system.
We stand here as the firm of Musyoki Mogaka Advocates and have been on record for one of our esteemed clients, the Honorable Aisha Jumwa, who is the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Public Service and Gender, was in court and has been in court accused of the alleged murder charges. And in the spirit of giving a proper defense to our client, we reviewed the evidence that the prosecution had supplied us with. And in reviewing our evidence, we are of the opinion and advice that the evidence is not sufficient to hold the charges that have been preferred to our clients.
Elsewhere, police have asked the court to be allowed to detain an auctioneer for 14 days to allow complete investigations of malicious damage to property located in Westlands, Nairobi County. The prosecution told Principal Magistrate Gilbert Shikwe that the auctioneer, through hired goons, demolished and took away doors, windows and other personal properties belonging to Niraj Shah. The demolition of the residential property occurred on November 5th, 2022, with police now seeking more time to collect evidence and record statements from witnesses. And finally, a witness has told the court that he spoke to 2 police officers accused of killing the Kianjokoma brothers. Felix Njagi, an uncle to the 2 brothers, says the officers engaged him not knowing he was a relative to the deceased. He told the court one of the officers, Mr. Mwaniki, indicated to him that the family of the 2 boys will be compensated. I felt bad he was equating money to the lives of our children. He told the court the case has been adjourned to 27th February next year. Collins Lusweti, TV 47, Nairobi.
Moving on, 28 Kenyans have been nominated to battle it out for the 9 slots to represent Kenya in the East Africa Legislative Assembly, even as some big names were dropped out in the 11th hour. As our parliamentary reporter Elizabeth Mutuku reports, Kenya Kwanza has presented 15 names, with Azimio presenting 12 names to the regional parliament. There is only one independent candidate who qualified out of 16 who applied for the job.
After a week-long of vetting Kenyans who had shown interest in serving the East Africa Legislative Assembly, IALA, only 28 nominees have qualified for the job. However, a fierce battle for the 9 IALA slots is expected, with Kenya Kwanza presenting 15 names, Azimio la Umoja 12 names, while only one independent candidate out of 16 that had applied made it to the last stage.
What we find in respect of each candidate and whether we certify them to be duly nominated or not. Thank you.
The Kenya Kwanza Brigade nominated former Mombasa gubernatorial aspirant Hassan Omar, nominated Senator David Ole Sankok, former Mbalambala MP Abdikadir Aden. Head of the list in the Kenya Kwanza nominees includes former Nandi woman representative Zipporah Kering, Nairobi lawyer Okengo Nyambane, former United Republican Party URP Secretary General Frederick Muteti, former nominated Senator Falhada Deko, Anto, the firstborn daughter of the former long-serving Criminal Investigation Department Director, the late Arap Tor, former Saboti constituency aspirants Jonas Kuko, former Gembe Central MP Cyprian Kubai, and former West Pokot woman representative Lilian Tor. As in the Kenya Kwanza list that will be battling to get one of the 5 positions include Rebecca Merikeju, Godfrey Maina Karobia, Yasser Ali Sheikh, and Salim Mohamed Busidi.
The Alliance has complied with the rules in terms of nomination and even in terms of gender balance. We have endeavored to ensure that there is also regional balance of our nominees. We wish all the 15 nominees all the best as they embark on their campaigns for election, as at when the presiding officers allow them access to Parliament to be able to speak to members of Parliament to campaign. And we wish them all the best. Twists
and turns were witnessed before the final Azimio la Umoja list was presented to the clerk of the committees for vetting. In the end, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka's son Kennedy Musyoka, Raila Odinga's daughter Winnie Odinga, Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, and Mombasa businessman Mohamed Shabal made it to the list. Others who will be battling for the 4 positions set aside for the Azimio One Kenya are former Kieni Lomeka Kaninkega, former Shinyalu MP Justus Kizito, former Wajir woman representative Fatuma Gedi, former Kitutu Masaba MP Timothy Bosire, and former Wajir South MP Mohamed Dirie, Winfred Mutua, Helen Deti, and Beatrice Askul.
Between the candidates and the would-be voters, or the voters for that matter. And ultimately, when the final tally is taken on the 17th of November, may the best man or woman win.
KANU Secretary General Nick Slat, Oburu Odinga's son Jaoko Oburu, and Jalango Midiwo, brother to the late Jakoyo Midiwo, are among prominent Kenyans that have missed out. However, KANU party leader Gideon Moi withdrew from the race. Extensive lobbying is expected in Parliament as from tomorrow, as 28 qualified members to represent Kenya in the IALA Assembly are expected to go for vote hunting ahead of voting on 17th this month. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV 47 Palm Biddings, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, Kenyans will be allowed to travel to South Africa beginning next year in a 90-day free visa regime using their ordinary passports after South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade South Africa, give Kenyans a leeway for better opportunities. The 2 countries signed an MOU that will see the 2 nations enjoy business and development partnerships. Paul Kirobi with more details on that story.
In the next 2 months, Kenyans will enjoy the partnership between Kenya and South Africa to enter South Africa for business purposes under a new visa regime that looks into unlocking the potential of the two countries. And as this happens, the president says they'd also agreed on a return policy when immigration laws and policies are breached, meaning those with false papers will be dealt with according to the law.
That we have to jump little hoops to be able to get to the other side. Thank you very much, Mr. President. On behalf of the people and government of Kenya, we appreciate your gesture, your leadership, and your personal intervention in making sure that our officials are aligned so that we can work together.
We are going to be hands-on, and it's not going to be a loophole that we have opened for those who want to transgress immigration regulations and who want to come to slip into South Africa without proper papers and so forth.
President William Ruto invited his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa at State House before inviting him for a business engagement with the Kenyan business community at the Kenyatta International Convention Center for a roundtable meeting to unlock trade and business partnership between the two countries.
Our borders from being hurdles to being bridges. We must turn our borders from being hurdles to being facilitative so that we can do trade, we can do business, we can make investment, and we can move people, goods, and services freely.
The partnership comes at the backdrop of the poor state of the economy that the country is grappling with the South African leadership inviting Kenya to open up warehouses in South Africa for business purposes. Minister for Trade and Investment Moses Kuria says there is a trade imbalance between the two countries.
And we have agreed with Minister Patel to set up a joint committee to unlock the non-tariff barriers which are hindering trade between our two nations. We had a very strict instructions from our two presidents to do everything possible to look at the issues of logistics, to the issues of delays in our borders, and Kenya is actually taking the first step by establishing the first two border custom warehouses, one in Johannesburg and one in Pretoria, to support our SMEs.
Saying that President Ramaphosa has given us a job to prioritize economic relationships with Kenya. As leader of the African Union during the COVID period, President Ramaphosa championed the idea of Africa making its own medical products, from vaccines to face masks to ventilators. As during the meetings of the G20,
Kenya is going to set up warehouses in South Africa for Kenyan goods that must come into South Africa. We welcome that and we are open to that. Before coming into this meeting hall, President Ruto was...
As part of his government's agenda,
we want South African companies to come and work with us. Bring your technology, bring your investment. We are going to give you the land. We are going to build the infrastructure for you. We are going to make sure there is a sewer line, there is a road, there is electricity, there is water. And when you complete those houses, we are going to buy them from you. As soon as you complete, you hand over the keys to us, we pay you, you go to the next project as we look for mortgage for our citizens.
The president is targeting to construct 200,000 houses earmarked for low-income earners and which will be constructed every year. Paul Kerobi, TV47, Nairobi.
You dream of working in Germany as a health practitioner?
Mount Kenya University, through its affiliate, Equip Africa Institute, has partnered with Hochschule Koblenz University of Applied Sciences, Germany, to train you in healthcare assistant for German hospitals. The training, which targets those who have cleared KCSE and have proficiency in German, will be conducted in 2 semesters, with successful candidates being guaranteed apprenticeship and job opportunities in partner German hospitals. January intake is in progress.
This is Doha, this is Qatar. We come together tonight, 1 billion of us, in every corner of the globe where the beautiful game matters. Here for the show-stopping magic of a moment.
Get a DStv decoder with 1 month of compact for only 3,999 Kenyan shillings to watch all 64 matches here for every fun.
Discover a world full of opportunities, a place to build your skill and see the world in a different perspective. Sensei Institute of Technology is the home to the best practical courses, giving you hands-on experience to handle the world. We offer courses such as plant operator, plant mechanics, driving and trailer driving, CCTV and alarm installation, solar installation, electrical installation, motorcycle, motor vehicle mechanics and electronics, building construction technology, welding fabrication, roads and dam construction, hospitality courses, and many more. For you to join us, ensure you have your national ID card and be ready to enjoy the ride.
Remember, my skills, my future at Sensei.
Sensei College, my skills, my future.
Chachisha mechi. Chachisha mechi. Catch all the 64 games live from Qatar on GOtv Super. Get your GOtv decoder for only 1,999 Kenya shillings. GOtv. Love it.
Matumaini yangu kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, hujambo na karibu katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Hii leo tukizungumza naye mbunge wa Nandi Hills Bernard Kithure kuhusiana na maisha yake akiwa ni mbunge kwa mara ya kwanza, lakini akiwa amejaribu mara 3 na baadaye akafanikiwa.
I want to encourage every young person, even watching me today, that let nothing stop you from your dreams that you want to achieve in life. Hiyo mimi nilienda nikijua kwamba, I had set my mind kwamba I want to face the big giant.
Wakati huu wote ulikuwa umeoa, maana yake unajua siasa pia ukikosa bibi watakuwa na kitu cha kukupiga.
Hilo ni jambo ambalo of course walikuwa wanasema kwamba si kwa bibi. Sasa hiyo ikawa pia one of the biggest. Lakini mimi nataka nishukuru hilo issue ya kusema kwamba kama unaomba uongozi kwa hivyo lazima kuwa na bibi ama la. Hiyo katika sehemu ya Nandi na sehemu mingi hiyo kitu imeanza kutolewa nje.
Mimi Elizabeth Mutuku. Did you know that a suicide attempt is treated as a medical emergency?
I was at a point of my life where I was suicidal. I was unable to eat. I could never sleep.
In psychiatric circles, suicide is an emergency.
On this week's episode, we will get to learn how best you can detect and help someone dealing with mental illness.
So one of the reasons is probably maybe not being able to match up to expectations.
What kind of support should be given to a mental health patient this Thursday at 8 p.m.?
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
All right, welcome back and thank you so much for staying with TV47 News tonight. A middle-aged woman from Emom, that is in Tenges Ward, Baringo County, is nursing serious injuries at the Baringo County and Referral Hospital after her husband allegedly slashed her hand before attempting to slit his own throat using the panga. Elsewhere, a 30-year-old man from Gatanga in Muranga County was attacked and killed by angry residents after he allegedly slaughtered his 39-year-old lover following a domestic quarrel. Elizabeth Atieno with that report.
At the Baringo County Referral Hospital, Veronica Jepkoech, a mother of two, is nursing serious injuries after her husband allegedly chopped off her right hand using a panga.
Mimi nikamwambia sasa mimi siwezi kaa leo nyumbani sababu wewe hakuna saa ile wewe umelewa hatuwezi lala salama. Unasumbua watu. Nikaingia kwa nyumba nikatoa bag ya manguo. Nikataka kubaki manguo, akaingia kwa nyumba. Sikumuona ako na panga. Nikainama hivi, kutaka kuweka kwa manguo kwa bag. Akatupa, nikata na panga hivi. Once ikaanguka chini, mkono ikaanguka. Kutoka hapo nikakimbia nje mbio.
Laban Kipchumba, the main suspect, is also receiving treatment in this hospital, but is heavily guarded by police officers after he allegedly attempted to take his own life by slitting his throat.
Nilimwona akifanya hivi, mimi nikatoroka. Nikaitana watu wakuje wanifungie hata mkono. Mimi sitaki kujua tena yeye.
The hand has been repaired. But we were not able to return the distal end of the hand because of the time taken before we received that hand, and it had a lot of debris, so it was not a good quality hand for retouchment.
Kipchumba allegedly committed the act after his wife took the children to visit their grandmother but failed to return home with them.
Mtoto ya huyu ya kwanza tulikuwa na yeye. Labo nikamwambia huyu uniletee nani chemu mpaka nyumbani tukae na yeye. Sijui huyu alienda kugombea na nini na huyu bwana yake.
Jepkoech's family now wants justice to be served, stating that she was the family's breadwinner and her amputated arm will make it difficult for her to perform her chores.
Siwezi osha vyombo. Hata nikienda nyumbani siwezi saidia mzazi wangu. Sasa mimi nataka tu wafanye kila kitu kupata haki yangu na mtoto pia, watoto wakae vizuri.
Nilisomesha yeye kama amaliza form 4, alipata C-. Nilikuwa nataka nipeleke wale. Sasa hana mkono, sasa ataandika nani? Hana mkono tena. Na mkono ya kulia. Sasa nimekatirika sana. Sijui mimi nataka hatua ichukuliwe na serikali.
In Nyaga Village, Gatanga constituency, Muranga County, residents flooded this homestead to witness two badly mutilated bodies that laid on the ground.
Niwa vibaya sana, kichwa iko kando. Nikaa kuchinjwa, kichwa iko kando na mwili. Mwanaume mimi nimekuta kama ameuliwa, amechapwa tu na raia tu hivyo. Jio makosa amefanya.
The tragic incident occurred at 7 a.m. Wednesday morning when 30-year-old Kamau Ngugi allegedly slaughtered his 39-year-old lover Mary Mwihaki following a domestic quarrel.
Kampata kama anakamuliwa, alikuwa anakamua ng'ombe, ndio akamustukia na panga na kumkata vibaya penye shigo iko upande na mwili. Huyu mwanamke ni wakati ya umri wa miaka 38 to 40 years na ameacha watoto watatu.
It is alleged that the late Mwihaki left her ex-husband a few years ago and began a relationship with Kamau, but Kamau developed some insecurities accusing the deceased of infidelity.
Ningesema niambie watu wake, msiwe mkifanya unyama kama huu. Vumilieni, wacheni kutendana unyama kama huu. Pendaneni, na mkisikia mpendani ni mtu muache, enda kivyako na ende kivyake, tukae na amani.
Police officers from Kirwara Police Station transferred the bodies of the deceased to General Cargo Mortuary in Thika, Kiambu County.
Aye.
Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
To our interview segment now, and the revelation or lack of it thereof of the SGR agreement has rekindled the debate around the viability of the 320 billion shilling project, which has failed to break even yet, as operational costs remain high amid dwindling revenue, despite a government projection that the project could break even in May of 2019. A report by the Parliamentary Budget Office on the budget options for the 2021-2022 financial year and the medium term shows that the cost of running the SGR far outweighs the revenues generated in its fourth year of operation. To help us discuss the viability of this project, I'm joined by Louis Maganga, who is an economist. Karibu sana, Louis, and thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Louis, let's just get right to it. And looking at the numbers from all the way from 2017 to 2019, it looks like the operational costs of the SGR, of course, outweigh the amount of revenues that we are expecting from it. So the biggest question tonight would be, is the SGR an economically viable project?
Thank you very much. So I think Kenyans should be well conversant with the figures as regards the operational costs as well as the revenues that have been coming in. As it stands, the SGR operational costs stand at around 18 billion shillings per year. When you look at the revenue that SGR made in 2021, for example, it stood at 15.2 billion Kenya shillings, which represented a 24% increase in revenues in a similar time period for 2020, but still way below the 18 billion operational costs. So yes, we can say that as it stands, SGR is not economically viable.
And of course, all along we've been told that the reasoning behind the fact that SGR is yet to break even is because of, among very many other things, COVID. And post-COVID, we saw at least this year, the numbers are looking promising. For the first time, the revenue collected has exceeded the 1 billion shilling mark. What does this mean? Does it mean, like, from the projections that we're looking, are we likely to see us breaking even in the SGR anytime soon?
Well, indeed, Kenyans can be optimistic that revenues will keep increasing as per the current trend. Because when you look at the beginning of the year, for the first 6 months until June, the revenues have been at 7.1 billion Kenya shillings, which represents a 7.8% increase from a similar period last year. And yes, this of course indicates that there is an increase in the revenues that are coming in. However, we are still yet to equate this, or rather to reach the operational costs for the same. So of course we are still yet to break even, although Kenyans can be optimistic that following this trend, revenues shall be going up. By the way, the 7.1 billion shilling revenue that we've seen for the past, for the first 6 months of this year, represent a 49% increase in passenger revenues, and as well as a slight increase in freight revenues. So we can see that there is increase in passenger traffic. Of course, post-COVID, we can see that there is recovery. We can see, of course, that we're having more cargo being transported via the SGR. So yes, there is cause for optimism, but we're still yet to break even. That's a concern.
Louis, this project, the SGR project, started from the late Mwai Kibaki's administration, and by then I remember there was this proposal by the World Bank for us to just improve what we have, the meter gauge railway, as opposed to coming up with this new railway line. In your view, should we have accepted that proposal and just improved on the meter gauge railway? Do you think this project will give us value for money, for lack of a better word?
Well, I think indeed it would have been much more advisable to improve on the meter gauge railway that we had, because it had very wide coverage, and it had, it would have costed way less to improve it and to use it for passenger trains as well as for cargo, because when you compare the income that we're getting now with the amount that we spent 3.2 billion US dollars on this SGR project. We can see that we are yet to get value for the for the money that we spent, and it's going to take quite some time. So yes, SGR of course was and is a good project, but the question is, did we afford it? At that time, did we afford it? So the answer is, of course, this is something good, something futuristic, but for now we can say it would have been better, it would have been more economically viable to improve the meter gauge railway that we had.
All right, and that being said, Louis, we saw even the government at some point compelling cargo movers to actually use SGR as opposed to other means of transporting the cargo. When the new administration came into office, it returned port operations back to the port of Mombasa. And this, don't you think this will readily or really affect the revenues that the SGR expects to create, considering the fact that we have seen it continues to come up with losses each and every time? So with this impact of reverting port operations back to the port of Mombasa, does it have a direct impact in the revenues to be generated by the SGR project?
For sure, it will have. In fact, when you look at the factors behind the increase in revenues, particularly for the cargo trains, it was majorly due to the fact that there was an increase in operations for the Nairobi Inland Cargo Depot, which of course goes hand in hand with what you just said in terms of the government compelling people to use the SGR. The SGR has been transporting up to 216 containers in a single trip. So yes, that was a factor that had increased the revenues of the SGR. So with this latest move by the government to revert port operations back to Mombasa, we're going to see an increase in competition with the trailers that had been transporting these containers as well. So we're going to see a reduction. Of course, we're yet to see it, but most likely, because now they're not going to enjoy the monopoly that the state had accorded them. So it's interesting to see how much profits that are going to be made henceforth.
And Louis, in May of 2014, Kenya went to the Export and Import Bank of China, or the Exim Bank of China, gotten some 320 billion shillings for this project. Very many years, we all understand the story about the contracts and the details surrounding it. Of course, we saw what was released at the weekend, although very many people say now that the collaterals were not really made clear in what was released to the public on Sunday. But the question now comes, Louis, with all that we are seeing ever since it started operations in 2017, 5 years down the line, we are yet to break even. The Chinese are still in control of this project. What is likely to happen if, by any event, we are not able to repay these monies plus the interest in the required timelines? What really happens? I want the common mwananchi out there to understand these things, because whenever we speak about these issues, it's mostly clouded with a lot of politics here and there. But I now want us to remove the politics and look at the issues surrounding this project. And in the event we as a country cannot able to pay off this debt, what happens to us?
Yes, so a collateral, of course, is usually agreed upon before the loan is given. And of course, that is there to serve as security, so that if the loan is not paid, then the collateral can be used to recoup back whatever monies we owe our creditors. So if indeed it was true that the Mombasa port was used as collateral, then what we'd expect when we default our payments is that the operations of Mombasa port would be used to pay off the debt. But of course, these things are not cast in stone. So Kenyans should really understand things are not fixed. We can always renegotiate better terms of payments. You see, when you make such deals, you usually do that based on circumstances that you have. You do that based on projections, on your GDP growth that you had at that time. You do that based on projections on the revenues that were to come as a result of the project. So Kenyans can always renegotiate, especially if they feel they were not part and parcel of the entire negotiation. So the current government can always try and renegotiate with our creditors and see how best money can be repaid if we feel we're going to default. However, that is usually the role of collateral. Yeah. Right, Lois Maganga, I'm being informed that we've really exhausted that subject. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I wish we had a longer time, but we'll be looking for you in the days to come so that we can come and discuss very many issues surrounding this project. There are lots of many things being said. There are lots of truths. Some are half-truths. Some are outright lies about it. We'll be looking forward for that conversation. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. All right. Moving on, and President William Ruto and his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa have vowed to spearhead Africa's development agenda, saying the region has greatly been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, leaving many suffering. President Ramaphosa further says Africa has the capacity to manufacture COVID-19 vaccines and even others.
To scale up, we can't be running after a number of countries around the world and say, when we are sick, we want you to supply us with vaccines and syringes and therapeutics and so on. We've got to make our own. This is Africa's century, and we must capture it and demonstrate to ourselves and those who will come after us that we did take up the opportunities. And now we've already demonstrated that we can. We can make vaccines here on the continent.
To the world of sports now, in a few days after Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba reinstated Football Kenya Federation into office, the FKF earlier today nullified the 2021-2022 FKF Premier League and National Super League season. In its statement, FKF stated that there will be no promotion or relegation in the FKF Premier League, National Super League and Women's Premier League. Neither will there be relegation in FKF Men's Division 1 and FKF Women's Division 1 leagues, and the kickoff date for the FKF Premier League new season will be on 19th of this month. FKF stated that the decision was guided by FKF statutes, FIFA statutes, FKF rules and regulations, and the Sports Disputes Tribunal rulings on a number of cases filed at the tribunal regarding that season. Further afield in Zimbabwe's Anyasha Muyambo earlier registered his first victory in the 2022-2023 Kenya Open Golf Limited Safari Tour's second leg at the Par 72 Limuru Country Club. Muyambo fired a final round of 3 under par 69 for a total of 6 under par 282 to claim his maiden victory in the tour, as he produced a total of 6 birdies against 3 bogeys to beat his compatriot visitors Mapwanya by 5 shots. Speaking after the win, Muyambo said he managed to correct some mistakes from the first round and enabled him to become the champion, adding that his plan is to play all the tour event with an aim of qualifying for the magical Kenyan Open.
More or less everything. My chipping also improved coming into the last round today. So yeah, I put everything together nicely today. So I'm looking forward to more success on the Safari Tour. Thank you, Safari Tour, for opening up this occasion and these opportunities to us so that we can showcase our golf. So I'm really looking forward to the future and more Safari Tour events. Yeah, I'm hoping to play a full schedule on the Safari Tour, and hopefully that could lead me to earning enough points to play in the Kenya Open. The Kenya Open is my